So far, in this talk series, we have learnt why COVID and natural disasters are impacting the humanity. We looked at how much of that I ego we developed in human life is impacting the evolution. We looked at evolution from our origin to the end. We looked at what were we before the human birth and what is there for us after death. We also looked at godly characters as the corrective measures to solve the problems facing the humanity today. The first two godly characters we reviewed as a baseline mandatorily needed personalities are detachment and pure love. Along with these two characters, we discussed the personalities of patience and tolerance to steer the aspirant towards realizing the self in the last topic in this series. In this topic, we will see the next important trait an aspirant should have, that is, devotion for transformation. Having observed these personalities sincerely, aspirant at this point will develop a loneliness and look for a mental dependence which no human relations or friendship can provide. This seeking of dependence will have complete trust, intense craving with deep love. This dependent support can be rendered only by the supreme principle through the aspirant's faith or by the knowledge acquired from the aspirant's spiritual master or by the reverence aspirant developed over the course of observing these characters with the help of nature. This supreme principle could be a form or formless as per the imagination of aspirant. This supreme principle has the supreme knowledge which is the reason for the creation and its sustenance. Support will arrive from this supreme principle as per the aspirant's imagination to the level of aspirant's belief and the love of his or her faith. In other words, supreme principle appears as God in the form or formless the aspirant imagines to save and protect the aspirant. The aspirant's love at this point will have no doubts and full acceptance of that supreme principle. This supreme principle can be referred as God or Almighty. The feeling of missing God will make a devotee relying on God alone for everything and will continually shed tears by craving for the God's love. At the same time, a new joy of happiness will appear then and there, making the aspirant to shed tears of joy. This mental state is described as devotion towards God. To explain the power of devotion, I just want to draw an analogy my master quoted for the devotion towards supreme principle. When a baby is running speedily towards mother with pure love, but before reaching the mother, the baby trips and falls. The baby's physical body has not instantly reached the mother yet, but the mind can reach the mother instantly. Mother, without waiting at this time, runs towards the baby to give that love sought by the baby and secures the baby. Mother's love will have infinite compassion to soothe the pains of the baby. Similar to this, when aspirant devotion to God intensifies and seeks support, God will provide the helping hand. Aspirant is the baby and the God is the mother in this analogy. Aspirant's act of clinging on to God with this surrendering devotion will enable God to descend to console and support such an aspirant. This will give a boost to the aspirant to tread the spiritual path with ease. Aspirant's devotion towards God will be refreshing to stay on course in the pursuit of supreme consciousness and thus paves the way to inherit the qualities of God's personalities. I just want to tell a story which is an incident in Thirumanisai Alvar's life. Thirumanisai Alvar is an ardent devotee of Sri Narayana who is believed in Hinduism as one of the trinities in charge of maintenance portion of the universe. Thirumanisai Alvar's devotion to Sri Narayana is second to none. When he visited Sri Narayana temple once, the upper class people inside the temple were demanding him to stay outside the temple walls, accusing him of belonging to lower class. Ancient times, this taboo existed where the lower class people were treated like underprivileged. Without resisting, Thirumanisai Alvar accepted their wish to stay outside the temple and prayed to Lord innocently and left the temple. As he was stepping away from the temple deity started moving and followed Thirumarisai Alvar, which surprised the priests and the temple devotees. The priests came running behind Thirumarisai Alvar, begging and bowing to forgive their mistake and allow the deity to get back to temple. Thirumarisai Alvar turned back and requested the deity to hold its place in the temple. One should imagine the detachment personality Thirumarisai Alvar displayed when he was not allowed inside the temple, the pure love personality towards the upper class people who resisted his entry into the temple and demanded him to stay outside the temple. Thirumarisai Alvar also observed patience and tolerance personality for not retaliating for the meted disrespect. He also exhibited devotion towards Lord by praying outside the temple premises. Without this request, Lord supported him and left the temple with the symbolic representation of deity made of stone, following the devotee Thirumarisai Alvar. I know I am saying the very short version of this great story. The reason I mentioned it here is to relate the appearance of Supreme Principle as per the beliefs of aspirant. My master mentioned the story few times in his discourses, and I felt this is an appropriate story matching the devotion context we are discussing here. The devotion and reliance of God by the aspirant for everything will transform into surrendering love proportionate to the intensity of that love. Proportionate to the intensity of that love, I, ego, and the human aware consciousness captivated in human life will recede. Aspirant with pure devotion to the higher principle or God will exhibit detachment from acquiring wealth, seeking pleasures, and seeking physical and mental gains. Aspirant at the same time will lovingly serve humanity and every being without expectations and preconditions. Aspirant also will care and protect the nature by leading a simple and humble life. Aspirant will have the grand acceptance of everything in the nature, be it pleasant or unpleasant situations. This grand acceptance will not worry the aspirant on sad situations in life. This grand acceptance also will not excite the aspirant on any happy situations in life. An intellectual human will find it hard to comprehend what I am going to say. Aspirant at this level of progress with personality changes towards divinity will reach a point that the human enabled I consciousness is being lost to enter the divine trance state. This reach is like getting close to the foothill of supreme consciousness. To clarify this point, let me state what my master says. Humans possess both physical organs and celestial organs. Physical organs are present until the human body exists. Celestial organs exist even after human death. In this reach, physical organs go dormant and celestial organs awaken at this point while leading a human life. Every human in this world is equipped with these two types of organs, and it is us who are captivated by human I ego, which is enabling us to live in the delusion of relying on physical organs. My master also says, mind is mightier than physical body and soul is mightier than mind. Aspirant reaching this state of devotion will realize this truth at this time. This grand understanding is the real truth. This is why the aspirant in spiritual path is labeled as truth seeker. Every faith in this world has special mention for devotion to Lord. Hinduism calls the Lord as Brahmam. Christianity calls it Holy Father. Islam calls it Allah. In English we call it God. Every prophet or messenger who were enlightened at their time of presence in this world, as per the social conditions of that place, have stressed whatever is appropriate for easy path to salvation and bundled their message of faith to humanity. They have given special importance to devotion, as this makes their connection to Supreme speedily and swiftly. Though we see Christianity focused on service with love, Buddhism focused on renouncement, Sikhism focused on truthful living, and serving. Every faith had a special mention on devotion. Islam entirely focused on devotion to Allah to steer away people from ritualistic worship to demons. Every faith had one thing in common when it comes to the love of God, which is termed as devotion. Devotion has created 63 Nayanmars among Shaivites, 12 Alvars among Vaishnavites in Hinduism. Likewise, devotion created several monks, saints, sages, enlightened from every faith. My master says, pre-qualification for an aspirant with devotion or the attributes of devotion should be having the two baseline personalities of detachment and pure love, and having the personalities of patience and tolerance, which we discussed in our previous talks. Without these personalities, devotion cannot be truthful. We already saw God exists as supreme consciousness, which is the ultimate and everlasting consciousness. This consciousness is present in everything and everywhere in this universe. This consciousness present in wind follows the command of our ancestors governing the wind aspect of the nature. These ancestors follow the character of pure love in serving the wind to the people and other beings. By serving, they inherently honor the personality of detachment by not choosing the good and the bad ones to serve. Similarly, the consciousness present in sun rays is managed by our ancestors to emit sun rays to the plants without picking the good or bad plants to be served. Similarly, all nature supplied living resources for people and other beings like water, food, medicine, heat, fuel, shelter, climate, etc. are governed by our ancestors by adhering to these personalities. Ancestors follow these personalities to remain in the territory of divine because these are divinely characters. These personalities alone befit them to remain in the status of divine. An aspirant also remains in this territory of divine with his or her devotion to God. This devotion is only possible with the prerequisite personality of detachment, pure love, patience, and tolerance, which we discussed so far. My master frequently says, proportionate to aspirant's devotion, God will match the love by lending a hand of support to aspirant. Aspirant heading in this path of spiritual progress with personality refinement may have had roles in family and society which may have been ignored by the aspirant. While it is aspirant's responsibility to fulfill those roles to stay out of karma due to the avid pursuance of spiritual actions by embracing these personalities, God takes the onus of fulfilling those failed roles and duties. Aspirants' unfinished roles in serving family and society is taken over by God at this juncture due to aspirants' sincere devotion. It will not look like a direct help, but God will ensure nature supports the failed duties of aspirant towards family and society in some shape or form. My master is very careful in relaying this message often because aspirant with insincere following of these personality methods proposed here should not presume God will support him or her. My master analyzes the human mind filled with devotion and says, every human mind has outer and inner consciousness. Inner consciousness is rational and pure. Pure means exhibition of selfless character in all thoughts and actions. The outer consciousness is exposed to outside world and has I ego dominating it. Devotion is a character which arises from the inner consciousness with deep love towards supreme principle or God. Usually the outer consciousness controls the inner consciousness by exhibiting shyness, self-image or self-esteem. As the devotion intensifies, the inner consciousness dominates the outer consciousness. Or we can also say, at this point, outer consciousness merges with inner consciousness. When this happens, the aspirant will lose the shyness, self-image, fear, logical thinking, and in general, the commonsensical traits. That's why we can see a devotee soaking in divine love will sing praise of God or dance with joy, showing insignificance to surroundings and awareness. Society has accused them as abnormal, but they are God-friendly and intoxicated with devotion to divine. In this divine love, aspirant shows insignificance to material life bondage and has the character of detachment from the self-image and the dogma of self-esteem. Aspirant also shows pure love with the complete surrender to God, infinite patience in handling the worldly matters, tolerance against the insane branding of expression of joyous moments while soaking in divine love. Aspirants show of insignificance to the logical and material aspect of life, which are presumed as common sense to live in this world, is surely an intensity of devotion for transformation. The joy of devotion is well expressed in all faiths through singing melodies and chanting religious texts in congregations and worshipping places. Bhajans in Hinduism is an informal devotional song followed in Hinduism. Singing melodies and chorus are part of Christian church congregations. Muslims recite Quran in mosque congregations. Buddhist monks chant from religious texts in temple rituals. Sikhs sing hymns from scripture in their worship and so on. These are simply an expression of devotion. Many nowadays across different faiths visit their worship place praying, seeking reliefs from personal crisis, or seeking recovery from personal tragedies, or seeking wealth and comforts, or seeking some form of benefits for themselves or family. Those prayers are presumed as devotion by many people. Along with the expectation of gains in prayers, they offer something material in nature to the God. God's blessing cannot be transactional because all human problems are their own creation with their misdeeds from the past. Nature is currently presenting the problem situations for every human to rid their own past misdeeds. Supreme Principle or God does not have any connection with anyone's problem. Many people also offer their assets and wealth for the fame and recognitions in the society. Such image-seeking giving cannot be called devotion as it does not follow the parameters for devotion. We already looked at those parameters as prerequisite personalities. First of those are two baseline personalities, detachment and pure love. Along with these personalities, observing the character of patience and tolerance is critical for sincere devotion. A devotion without these personality traits is not devotion but self-gain seeking prayers. My master says, accepting the concept of God and seeking the knowledge on God is equivalent to accepting the God. Therefore, aspirants' dedication and time to acquire the knowledge on God is an important aspect in devotion. Instead of indulging in ritualistic worship, focusing on God and attempting to rid the ever-dominant material life thoughts will amplify the devotion. Aspirant indulging in the prerequisite personalities will surely conquer that ever-dominant material life thoughts to focus on God. This indulgence will sharpen the devotion. Also, devotion will blunt the aspirant's physical sense connections to material world. Devotion will make the relationships and responsibilities in human life insignificant and will channelize aspirant's mind towards supreme consciousness. This channelizing is called surrendering devotion. Every enlightened had this devotion quality to scale up to match the divine quality. To summarize in one word, without devotion, there is no possibility for anyone to attain salvation. Salvation means self-realization. Self-realization means merging with supreme consciousness. Supreme consciousness is the grand consciousness present in every pore and rivet of this universe. It existed before the creation of this universe and will remain after the universe destruction. This devotion will accelerate the aspirant state in evolutionary progress. In every faith, Devotion is stressed with greater importance to follow by everyone. With this many details we discussed, I think the listener will understand the traits of devotion. I will conclude with this the talk on devotion for transformation and move on to the next important personality changes an aspirant will endure after acquiring perfect devotion, which is personality of self-sacrifice and forgiveness.